歡迎大家出席今日嘅。
Welcome to the press conference. Let me first of all introduce the officials on the stage. We have Ms. Bernadette Lin, Secretary for Development, Professor Sun Dong, Secretary for Innovation, Technology and Industry, Mr. Ricky Lau, Permanent Secretary for Development Works, Ms. Doris Ho, Permanent Secretary for Development Planning and Lands, Mr. Eddie Mack, Permanent Secretary for Innovation, Technology and Industry, and Mr. Ivan Lead, Commissioner for Innovation and Technology. The two Directors Bureau will first do a PowerPoint presentation on the respective policy areas, and then the floor will be open to questions. First, over to the Secretary for Development.
Good afternoon. This year's policy address shows the government's commitment to land and infrastructure development. This also reflects our willingness to embrace a reform mindset and revamp. I will give you an overview of the key policy measures related to the Development Bureau. Every year, we announce forecasts for land supply for the next 10 years. According to last year's forecast, we made a forecast that the supply of developable land is approximately 180 hectares in 2024-25. We are confident that we will meet the target. The developable land this year mainly comes from specific rezoned areas, the Tongchong New Town Extension and the Northern Metropolis. Well, this financial year is about to end. Let's advance our forecast by year. In the next 10 years, the supply of developable land is expected to be approximately 3,000 hectares from 2025-26 to 2034-35. The target of supply is about 3,000 hectares, varying each year from 150 to 450 hectares, depending on the progress of different projects. So we will not be supplying the same amount of land every year. From a macro perspective, a few years ago, we conducted a Conf 2030 Plus towards a planning vision and strategy transcending 2030. It sets out the target of 7,000 hectares of land over 30 years from 2019 to 2048, averaging about 200 hectares per year. In the next 10 years, we will be supplying about 3,000 hectares, and that is in line with the target levels outlined in the Hong Kong 2030 Plus, showing the government's commitment to stable land development. All these developable land comes from government-led projects. About 60% of these 3,000 hectares, that is approximately 1,700 hectares, come from the Northern Metropolis. By the end of this year, we will be submitting an environmental impact assessment for the Kawichao Artificial Islands. Hopefully by next year, we can complete the environmental impact assessment statutory procedures and start reclamation. So you can see that in the 10-year forecast, we have included the 300 hectares coming from the Kawichao Artificial Islands. The 10-year forecast will be uploaded to the Development Bureau's website after this press conference. One of the major supply of developable land comes from the Northern Metropolis. That accounts for about 60% of our land supply. The Northern Metropolis is entering its harvest period, so over the next 10 years, we anticipate a significant supply of housing units and industrial land. Public facilities and infrastructures will also be completed. The upcoming year will be extremely busy for the Northern Metropolis because we will commence the first phase of the Santin Technopole by the end of this year. We will also announce the land use plans for the remaining 3 new development areas, namely Ngau Tam Mei, New Territories North Newtown, and Ma Chau Long within this year. In Ngau Tam Mei, we will reserve over 50 hectares For the Northern Metropolis University Town, integrated research and teaching hospital, as well as a third medical school. On top of that, we will initiate the rezoning procedures for Sandy Ridge this year, expanding the site to 10 hectares for the construction of data center. We develop Northern Metropolis by adopting a diversified approach. That is why we have identified 3 pilot sites covering an area about 10 to 20 hectares for the large-scale land disposal approach. These 3 sites are the Santin Technopole, Hongshui-Kyu Ha-Chun, and Fanlin North. Each local district will cover commercial land and projects, for example, private residential development projects and parcels for public facilities. The land use planning for these 3 sites have been completed, and the statutory procedures have already been done. Afterwards, we will invite for tender so that successful developers who win the tender can undertake integrated development and construction. Through this kind of collaboration with the market, hopefully we can develop these 3 local districts early, and that we have a more coordinated design in the sites. By this, we can lower the upfront development cost, and we are able to collect land premium earlier, improving our cash flow. We will commence a market research by the end of this year for these 3 local districts to prepare for the tender exercise next year. We will try to invite for tender for the first local district next year. Promoting industrial development is one of the main objectives of the Northern Metropolis. Apart from land disposal and land grant to engage developers to operate the industrial buildings or industrial park, we are exploring the establishment of a government-led company to operate specific thematic industrial clusters so that we can lead and participate in the operation. You may ask why we adopt this approach. Well, through our participation, we'll be able to lead the operation, and we can be innovative and carry out pilot projects. We now propose to use some logistics land in the Hongshui-Kyu Ha-Chun new development areas as our research scenarios. In the first quarter next year, we will announce the specific proposals on this. I've talked about the 3 local districts for market survey. This is the second group of 3 projects. They're about enhancing eco-recreation tourism economy. In this policy address, you can see that our land development is no longer limited to housing and infrastructure. We also promote industries such as tourism, recreation, yachts, and education through land planning and development. We will promote the eco-recreation and tourism economy at the 3 locations. We will develop Chimpei-Chui and Pak Nai. They are the 2 ecotourism nodes. And also we will leverage the natural resources of South Lantau to create an eco-recreation corridor. We will also revitalize the Ixlama quarry site. We will revitalize the 20 hectares of flatland, 5 hectares of artificial lake, and 1 kilometer of coastline. We will develop it into a leisure and outdoor recreation areas. In the first quarter next year, we plan to launch a market survey for the 3 projects. For the first group of the 3 local districts, we have completed the statutory procedures. For the second group of the 3 projects, the invitation for expression of interest has not started, and we have not undergone any town planning procedures for them. But we think that by inviting expression of interest before land zoning, we can effectively incorporate market insights and appealing elements into our statutory plans to be formulated later. Another benefit is that if we are able to collect expressions of interest, that will allow interested developers more time to prepare, enabling a quicker and more positive response during our future tender exercise, thereby speeding up development. Now on to another group of 3 projects. What are they about? They're about yacht tourism. Hong Kong has over 200 islands and high-quality water bodies, making it an ideal place for yacht activities. Increasing berthing spaces for yachts can drive yacht tourism. Therefore, we propose to establish private yachts club at the 3 locations that you can see on the slide. We estimate that each yacht club can accommodate 100 to 200 berthing spaces per yacht, which will promote yacht tourism, boost tourism services, yacht sale, and create employment opportunities in the related industries, stimulating high-end consumption from local, mainland, and overseas visitors. By the middle of next year or earlier, we will explore the possibility of having private enterprises operate yacht mooring facilities at the water bodies of Hong Kong and ex-South Lama Quarry site, as well as the Aberdeen Typhoon Shelter. Tourism today, as you all know, emphasizes diverse experience. Therefore, the proposed yacht clubs will not be a standalone facility. The yacht club will integrate with the onshore dining, entertainment, retail facilities in the vicinity. The policy address also touches on another industry, that is the development of our education industry. The government is committed to turning Hong Kong into an international hub for post-secondary education, with one of the measures being to improve hostel facilities. In this regard, we will collaborate with the Education Bureau to launch a pilot program in the first half of next year, encouraging the market to convert hotels and other commercial buildings into hostels on a self-financing basis. The Education Bureau will establish requirements for these student hostels, while the Development Bureau will streamline planning, land administration, and approval procedures. The government will also provide suitable land parcels for the market to build new hostels when necessary. The Development Project Facilitation Office of the Development Bureau will offer one-stop consultation services for the operators when the pilot program is launched in the first half of next year. We have reserved at least 80 hectares of land in the Northern Metropolis for the development of the Northern Metropolis University Town. We will reserve for flexibility for the development of student hostels there. When we develop land and infrastructures, we must control and lower our construction costs. We are conducting a strategic study on construction cost. To find out the reasons for the high cost of construction, we will draw on relevant local and overseas experience to formulate measures. These measures would include introducing diversified project procurement mode, utilizing innovative technology, streamlining approval processes, and reviewing our standards. We hope that these measures will lower construction cost. Within this year, we will propose specific recommendations. We aim to gradually implement the measures starting from 2025. The Development Bureau in August established the Building Technology Research Institute. Through the institute, we will review and optimize Hong Kong's long-standing building standards with reference to overseas and national standards. That is Guobiao. This will facilitate the use of high-quality and cost-effective construction materials from both overseas and the mainland locally. We'll also work with the sector to improve our efficiency and site safety. We'll, within this year, launch the Modular Integrated Construction Manufacturer Certification Scheme, promoting the high-quality development of MIC, making it one of the key industries in the Greater Bay Area. Now on to issues relating to buildings. I will not go into detail because the proposals will be announced in the coming 2 months. First, on the review of the buildings ordinance, last year's policy address sets out our goal of reviewing the ordinance this year. Currently, we're reviewing the ordinance in 3 main areas. First, we have to encourage property owners to expedite their building maintenance. Second, we have to pragmatically and effectively address large number of unauthorized building works of different nature. And third, we have to strengthen regulation of construction quality and safety. The focus of the review is to increase penalties, simplify enforcement procedures, and streamline enforcement thresholds. By the end of this year, we will present our recommendations for public consultation. The legislative amendments proposals will be submitted in the first half of 2026. Lastly, about encouraging elderly-friendly building design. Last year's policy address proposed the formulation of elderly-friendly building design guidelines. The task force led by the Deputy Financial Secretary has completed the review, and we will put forward recommendations very shortly and consult our stakeholders. Some of the measures are about how we can make it more convenient for elderly to enter and leave the buildings. So we will be amending the legislation in 2026 to mandate some of the design. For example, we have to provide automated doors at the buildings, and we ask the developers to provide non-slip floor tiles, and the doors should be of a certain width. However, there are some designs that are desirable but shouldn't be mandated, because we want to encourage the industry and users to provide, for example, sliding doors and offer recreational facilities in the parks. For example, these are non-mandatory but desirable designs, and we will, through administrative means, encourage our sector to adopt these measures. We will, for example, offer incentives like floor areas, concessions. We target that in the first half of 2025, we will adopt some of the administrative measures. To conclude, we are determined to develop land and infrastructure. We will make good use of Hong Kong's rich and diverse resources to build a more livable city, improve the quality of life of our people, and build our future together. Now I'll give the floor to Professor San Dong.
Good afternoon, members of the public and friends of the media. I will first brief you on the key initiatives under the portfolio of innovation technology and of my bureau in relation to the policy address 2024. Then I and my colleagues are happy to answer your questions. When President Xi Jinping visited Anhui, he said innovation, technology, and science are definitely the way to go in promoting modernization of the country. So this is always a choice for such development. And then Hong Kong is given the important positioning of developing into an international innovation and technology hub. And the policy address gives us focus on that, and it also ties in with the proposed development and strategic key strategies in the Hong Kong Innovation and Technology Development Blueprint. There are 5 major areas. 1, pressing ahead with new industrialization and innovation and technology industry development. 2, promoting research and development. 3, promoting digitalization. 4, new land supply for I&T use. And 5, promoting development of the Hong Kong-Shenzhen I&T Park in the Loop. First, on pressing ahead with new industrialization and I&T industry development. We will press ahead with the establishment. We will formulate a medium-term strategy on the development of new industry. Then we will also press ahead with the establishment of the Hong Kong New Industrialization Development Alliance to promote closer collaboration among the government and the industry, academia, research and investment sectors, building a cooperative platform for new industrialization in Hong Kong. This includes providing more financing opportunities and fostering I&T cooperation between newly listed companies in Hong Kong and local and universities. We will increase investment and guide more market capital to invest in I&T industries, reflecting a reformed approach of Hong Kong, of the government in I&T investment. We will set up a $10 billion I&T industry-oriented fund, which will be a fund of funds to channel more market capital to invest in specified emerging and future industries of strategic importance, including life and health, technology, AI, robotics, semiconductors and smart devices, advanced materials, new energy, and so on. We will optimize the Innovation and Technology Venture Fund and redeploy $1.5 billion to set up funds jointly with the market on a matching basis and invest in startups of strategic industries to further enhance Hong Kong's startup ecosystem. We will launch the I&T Accelerator Pilot Scheme with a funding of $180 million at a 1:2 matching ratio between the government and the institution, up to a subsidy ceiling of $30 million. The scheme aims to attract professional startup service providers with proven track records in and beyond Hong Kong to set up accelerated bases in Hong Kong, fostering the robust growth of startups. We have also started preparation work to establish the third Inno-Hong Kong Research Cluster, which will focus on advanced manufacturing, materials, energy, and sustainable development. Targets to attract world-class R&D teams to collaborate with local institutions, promoting R&D and bringing in talents. We will also set up a research center under the Inno-Hong Kong Research Cluster to participate in the Chang'e 8 mission and build our capacity in aerospace-related technologies for us to contribute to national aerospace development. The Digital Policy Office, DPO, was set up in July this year. Will lead all government departments in pressing ahead with digital transformation through data-driven policies. Within the government, DPO has introduced enhancement measures and will steer the Policy Bureau and departments to strengthen the project governance of government and public sector information technology IT systems under their charge. Bureau and departments must also fortify information systems and data security of the government and public organizations through cyber security attack and defense drills, compliance audits, and training of senior government officers in digital core competencies. The DPO will spearhead the pilot use of a locally developed generative artificial intelligence document processing co-pilot application in government departments. There are about 20 digital government and smart city initiatives will be launched this year, including using blockchain technology for issuing designated electronic certificates and licenses, as well as the use of AI for handling public inquiries. To further promote the digital transformation of SMEs, Cyberport will expand the scope of the digital transformation support pilot scheme program to cover the tourism and personal services sectors in addition to the current retail and food and beverage sectors. The program subsidizes assist SMEs on a one-to-one matching basis in the application of ready-to-use basic digital solutions. Last year, the banking, credit, referencing, and healthcare sectors started the early and pilot implementation of the standard contract for cross-boundary flow of personal information within the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area, mainland Hong Kong. The facilitation measure to streamline the compliance arrangements on cross-boundary flow of data has been working well with favorable response from the relevant sectors. We will further extend the facilitation measure to other sectors to promote further cross-boundary services that benefit the people and businesses and that promote the free flow of data in the Greater Bay Area. Now, fourthly, new land supply for IT use. There are currently about 250 hectares of land for INT use, including 22 hectares from the Hong Kong Science Park, 8 hectares from the from Cyberport, and 270 hectares from Free Innovation Parks. To support INT development, the government is actively seeking more land for development, and there are 3 new buildings of the Hetao Hong Kong Park, and that will be completed at the end of this year. Another 5 buildings will be completed in the next 5 years. And then there is the Centene Technopole in the Northern Metropolis. It will provide 210 hectares of land for IT use. Starting from 2026 to 27, we will be handing over about 20 hectares of new INT land to the Hong Kong Science and Technology Parks Corporation for development and operation. The corporation has rich experience in operating science parks and promoting the local INT ecosystem. It also has established network and has resources, so definitely they will benefit the early development of the Centene Technopole. As for Sandy Ridge in North District, we're going to start the rezoning process this year, and then there will the land available will be expanded from 2 to 10 hectares for the development of data sector and center and related purposes. La Foshan will also have 15 hectares of land for digital technology hub. And then 5, promote development of the Hong Kong Shenzhen INT Park in the Loop. The Hetao Shenzhen Hong Kong Zone is listed as one of the 4 major collaboration platforms in the Greater Bay Area. The SL government will take forward with full steam the development of the Hetao Shenzhen Hong Kong Cooperation Zone and capitalizing on the strengths of one country, 2 systems with the geographic advantages, one river, 2 banks. The government will develop the Hong Kong Park in the Loop into a world-class industry, academia, research platform, and it will also be a testing ground for institution and policy innovation. Steering Committee on the Hong Kong Shenzhen INT Park in the Loop, chaired by the Chief Executive, has been established to lead the SAR government to formulate the overall strategy, planning, and layout for the development of the Hong Kong Park. The development outline for the Hong Kong Park of the Hetao Shenzhen Hong Kong Science and Technology Innovation Cooperation Zone is in its final stage of drafting. We aim to publish the outline within this year. Our vision is to make the cooperation zone a crucial source of new quality productive forces for our country. The buildings in the Hong Kong Park will soon be completed. The first batch of tenants from life and health, technology, AI, data science, and other pillar industries will begin to move in next year. In terms of policy support, we are exploring with the mainland authorities the trial implementation of innovative facilitation measures, including facilitating cross-boundary travel of designated personnel of the 2 parks, enabling the cross-boundary movement of materials by using low-altitude unmanned aerial vehicles, and facilitating cross-boundary fund transfers by mainland enterprises settling in the Hong Kong Park. Innovation and technology are crucial to promote the high-quality development of our economy. We will spare no effort in taking forward all the initiatives and develop Hong Kong into an international INT hub with full force and speed. Thank you. Now the floor is open to questions. Before you ask questions, please first identify your organization. Any questions, please? Yes, the lady in black. I'm from next year, first quarter next year, the former Lemma Island, Quarry Bay, Park Nai, Tsim Pei Choi, they will be inviting expression of interest. And then will there be large scale land disposal approach too for these sites? You're worried that the tender may fail. And then the wetland parks in the policy address, there's mention of the Sampo-Shui Wetland Park. So what is the implementation timetable? What about the other two wetland parks? Do they no longer exist? And at Khao Yi Chau Artificial Island, the policy address states that they will take forward the project, but does it mean that you won't embark on the project in the near term? Is it because the government couldn't afford it? You asked 3 questions. First, about wetland conservation park. The Environment and Ecology Bureau is currently conducting a study. So in terms of the future arrangement, we have to wait till the EB publishes the study report. You mentioned 3 projects. We hope that in the first quarter of next year, we will invite a market research, a market survey on market interest. That's former Lemma Island, Lemma Quarry Bay site, Park 9 and TMHK. Well, you could consider these large-scale sites, but then they are not the same as the 3 other pilot sites I mentioned for the Northern Metropolis. Because for those 3 sites, we haven't yet completed the statutory rezoning. But then you might recall, within this year, we have already published our initial concepts. For example, South Lantau in Changsha, Shepik, Shui Ho. There will be individual themes, and then for Chimpui Park 9, it will be the same. They will have their own themes of development. So we have some initial ideas. And so we would like, therefore, to consult the reference sectors, say in future, say in Chimpui or Park 9, we hand over the site to market operators for development. Then can these operators really follow the concepts put forward by the government? And if they think, the site needs to be bigger for better cost effectiveness, or maybe the site needs to be combined with developments nearby, well, then the market can tell us about such views. And then, well, we are talking about market survey. It's not really consultation. We are actually speaking to interested operators. They will have to tell us whether the idea works financially and whether any adjustments is necessary, or maybe the sector will tell us they can't deal with infrastructure. For example, there may be a need to build a pier in South Lantau, and maybe the market operator says the government should build the pier. So we need to know about that early. Now, you mentioned the Islam quarry site. That's an abortion of a tender exercise. Oh, well, that's what you mentioned. But at a time, actually, we conducted a study, but then the focus was on housing. But now, we're considering uses that rely less on public transport. So, therefore, we're considering mostly tourism and recreational uses. And I think you mentioned Shekel, right? I think it was the last government who wanted to put sports and recreational facilities there. And there was no positive indication of interest at the time. Now, of course, response from the market will vary depending on the different locations and the strategies involved. At the same time, it will depend on the prevailing socio-economic condition. So we are just trying to invite expression of interest. We're not going to tender yet. So that's why it's an advantage to first start with expression of interest. As for Khao Yi Chau, at the end of this year, we would like to start the statutory environmental impact assessment process. And then we will start with some detailed project design studies. Now, you may ask, if we're worried about the finances of the government. Now, we're not talking about proceeding with reclamation right away. We need to get the preparation done first. And then for major projects, they could be done in phases. And then it depends on the detailed project work study that we're going to do, and then we'll decide how many phases there will be. And so we'll try to identify a suitable way to take forward the project. And in any case, we're confident that we will take forward the project. Next, over there, please. I'm from Commercial Radio. The 3 pilot sites in the Northern Metropolis. You hope to invite tender next year. But then we've seen cases of abortion of tendering exercises. So how do you assess whether these 3 sites are appealing or not to the market? And what if there is abortion of tender and you need to invite tender again? Will you then maybe then this process is slower than if the government takes up the development on its own? Another question is on the Khao Yi Chau artificial island. You say that you want to start initially you said you would start the reclamation next year, but now there are new considerations. So what changes have there been in the market? Why is it now you're confident you could relaunch this project? And do you have an initial estimate on the project cost? Well, I will first take up your question on the Khao Yi Chau artificial islands project. In the budget this year, the Financial Secretary mentioned that for the pace of development of the Khao Yi Chau artificial island, there may be some adjustment because we want to make sure there is good control of cash flow. At the time, the Financial Secretary and myself, when we were interviewed by the media, we said that we definitely not shelving the project. We're just adjusting the program. Now, we said before that we would start with reclamation by the end of 2025. But now you see we are spending more time to do a proper environmental impact assessment on the reclamation works, and then we hope that we could start with reclamation within the term of this government. So that means we are still taking forward the project, just that we are proceeding with at a slower pace. So it's not the case that we have changed our position within a matter of months. Our position has been consistent. On the Northern Metropolis, we will adopt the large-scale disposal approach, and very soon, by the end of this year, we're going to invite expression of interest on the 3 pilot sites. As I mentioned, for these 3 pilot sites, the statutory zoning processes have been completed. And in some cases, we have started the acquisition of land. Now, we will, if there is a developer or probably a joint venture operator, if they're interested in taking up the sites, and I believe they will be able to move faster than the government, because if the government is to do it, we have to first seek funding for each project, and then we have to invite tender for each project, and that would definitely take up some time. So if we allow development for a whole site, we don't need to seek funding because the land premium will reflect all the reference costs and fees, and so we don't need to seek funding, and then we don't need to invite tender for each and every project, because now we're talking about large-scale disposal, and that will certainly help in terms of the speed of development as well as the cost or the funds involved. Now, the journalist asked just now whether we're worried about the abortion of tendering. Well, I'd like to share 2 points with you. First of all, we are just going to start with an expression of interest from the market. So this will help us to gauge more accurately what the terms should be like when we eventually invite tender. And second point is about the scale, because the scale or the size of the site is a selling point in itself. Now there are we've talked to different developers locally and overseas. Sometimes they express the view that sometimes a larger site is more appealing to a developer because then there are more possibilities with the site. But of course, the planning must still be guided by the government. Now, as I said, we have completed the statutory zoning processes. So if we now next invite expression of interest, that will help us in taking forward the tendering exercise, and we'll be more confident as a result.
Next, the gentleman in black. Good afternoon, I'm from Singtao. The Secretary Bureau submitted a set of paper to the Legislative Council on the first stage of Sentin Technopole involving some $30 billion. Have you taken into account the cost reduction when you adopt large-scale land disposal approach, or is it that you have to spend $30 billion anyway, despite whether the large-scale land disposal approach is adopted? And will there be tender failure? And if there is tender failure, will the $30 billion not be enough? Now, in terms of invitation for tender under the large-scale land disposal approach, will there be any requirements for the developers? Do you require experience in public and private developments? My third question, I'd like to ask about the Kavichao Artificial Islands reclamation. Originally, it was planned at 2025. Will be the year when there is a land reclamation. Will advancing the reclamation schedule increase the cost of construction? Thank you. First, regarding the Sentin Technopole, very soon we will seek funding approval from the Legislative Council on the first stage development of Sentin Technopole. We have not accounted for the large-scale land disposal approach in our proposal yet. In other words, if we are to adopt large-scale land disposal approach, then the estimates for the project will be lower because we will be able to save money. You also ask if there will be cost overrun. Well, currently we are trying to seek funding from the Legislative Council for site formation and infrastructure. With the funding, the Works Department will monitor the progress of the project and we will control cost. As you may know, we have an office to control costs under the Development Bureau. You also asked about Kavichao Artificial Islands. If we delay the reclamation, will the cost increase? When we seek funding for works project and when we monitor our cost, we use the money of the day prices. Because when the works progress, there will be changes in prices because of inflation. So we often use money of the day prices when we seek funding from the Legislative Council. So the cost of project today may be different from the cost of project 10 years later. We cannot say that there will be cost overrun just because the project is delayed. When we have the engineering design, we'll have a more concrete figure and a better graphs on the potential cost of the reclamation works. Next, the gentleman in green, please. Good afternoon from Mingpao. First, I'd like to ask Professor Sun Teng about the Hong Kong Shenzhen INT Park in the Loop. And it is said that the chief executive will lead a steering committee to guide the development. What is the difference between having the government leading the operation or having the Hong Kong Shenzhen INT Park company leading the operation? Second, about the cost and capital. Is it because of foreign exchange restrictions in the mainland? They have difficulties in raising funds. How will you make it easier for the capital to flow across Hong Kong? We have a number of accelerators in Hong Kong. Why do you have to establish this pilot INT accelerator scheme to introduce foreign accelerators? How will they help Hong Kong's INT industry? My second part of the questions relate to the Development Bureau. You talked about large-scale land disposal approach, and there will be land premium reduction, as mentioned. So under what circumstances will the developers be able to enjoy land premium concession? And will you dedicate a theme for development for each of the 3 local districts? Good afternoon. Thank you. Regarding your first question about the management of the loop, the development of the loop is very important, and it's also one of the 4 key platforms under the 14th Five-Year Plan. So the Hong Kong SAR government attaches a lot of importance to it. This year, there is a steering committee on the development of the loop area led by the chief executive. ITIB serves as the secretariat to coordinate the policies. So this is the first level. Second, that is the Hetao Shenzhen Hong Kong Science and Technology Innovation Corporation Steering Committee. Well, we have leaders from the Shenzhen municipal government as well as me in it. Over the years, we have met multiple times. In August and September this year, we have organized a joint meeting. This working group coordinates and studies on the development of the Hetao Corporation Zone. We will report the outcome of the meetings to the steering committee on the Hong Kong Shenzhen INT Park in the Loop, chaired by the chief executive. Second, on the Hong Kong Shenzhen Science and Technology Company Limited, members of it include persons from different backgrounds nominated by Hong Kong and the Shenzhen municipal governments. This company is responsible for the concrete implementation of the operation of the loop, which include investment attractions, maintenance of the area, and so on. Second question on capital. As you all know, the outflow of capital is limited in the mainland and restricted, and the mainland government has an oversight on the capital outflow. So capital flow to Hong Kong is very special because the capital is still within our country, but is counted as sort of a cross-boundary capital flow. Together with the Ministry of the Information and Technology, we have achieved some results. Overall speaking, for eligible enterprises and organizations in the mainland, if they are to conduct research in the Hetao Cooperation Zone, we hope that there will be facilitation measures for the cross-boundary flow of capital. Now, for mainland companies who want to establish a presence in the Hetao, Hong Kong, Shenzhen Cooperation Zone, hopefully we want to provide convenience for them in terms of capital flow. That's what we're working on. This is a very sensitive subject. If our country does allow us or flexibility in capital flow, we have to grasp the opportunity. Third, on the accelerators. This is one of the new measures proposed in the policy address. We have a Hong Kong Science Park, and we also have the cyberport. But we don't have too many mature accelerator bases. The aim of having this space is to create a platform for collaboration for startups and micro enterprises to set up their presence. By this, we can share resources and talents. And by that, the talents will be able to adapt to Hong Kong more easily. Through capital deployment, hopefully, more international accelerators will bring quality startups to Hong Kong. Local startups have the same demand as well.
Well, there were two questions. One, with the large land disposal approach, how do we implement land premium concessions? Now, by large-scale land disposal, that means, of course, we're not selling a small piece of land, but rather we're talking about a huge area, say 10 to 20 hectares. And when we're going to sell the 10 to 20 hectares of land in one go, so that means the scale is large. But still, it's about land disposal. It's the same concept. Now, we require the developer to put uses of commercial value there. That could be private residential development or private industrial development. And of course, after the developer builds these buildings, the developer will get return, and then the government will help with infrastructure, but rather the developer will also build infrastructure such as roads and so on, and these infrastructure has to be handed back to the government because this is not for profit making. And so the developer, having regard of these requirements from the government, they will do their own calculations, and they will consider the cost they need to put in, but then they will of course also consider the return they will get after selling, say, the residential units or commercial units, and then they will decide how much premium they will pay the government. And that premium will reflect all the costs on their part in developing roads and building roads and so on. So the government won't tell them it costs so much to build a road, so you could deduct that. But rather, when the developer offers a premium amount, that should reflect all the costs incurred on the developer. So that's why we want to start with an expression of interest, because now we have identified 3 pilot sites. We've done some calculation internally, of course, and we believe these 3 sites are appealing to developers. But then we want to make sure it's actually the case by hearing from the market. Or maybe the market will say that the requirement on infrastructure building is too much. It is not. There are no cost benefits, therefore, in acquiring the site. then developers can tell us that. Or if some developers believe they want an even bigger site, and it will be more cost-effective that way, so they can tell us too. That's why we take this market research survey very seriously. Now, you asked if there will be a special theme for each pilot site. Now, the pilot sites are in Fanling, North, Hong Shui Kiu, and Shantin Technopole. There are already specific themes for these 3 districts. For example, Fanling North. In earlier years, we have designated Fanling North as a major supplier of residential developments. And then Hong Shui Kiu is for high-end professional services and logistics. And then Shantin is innovation and technology. These are the major themes. But then in each of the pilot sites, well, developers will have to do their maths, and we can't just impose too many public facilities on these sites. Rather, maybe the developer will have to consider how much residential units use they're going to have, and so on. For these 3 pilot sites, we have some identify certain locations, but we're still working on the details. And then starting from the end of this year, we are going to start to invite expression of interest, and by then the details will be published. For example, the boundaries of the sites, the facilities to be included, and so on. Now, we visited Shenzhen. You have this large-scale land disposal approach. How is it different from the approach adopted on the mainland or in Shenzhen in particular? And have you gauged the interest of developers? And then a question for Professor Sun Dong. Now, you're going to set up a research center to take part in the Chang'e 8 mission. When will you announce the details? And then for the Hong Kong Park in the Loop, what preparation will you be doing, and is there any progress? Perhaps I'll take your questions first. Yes, we did visit the mainland, in particular the Guangdong province, to look at their approach with the large-scale land disposal. But then actually they have a diversity of approaches. It's therefore hard to compare our approach to theirs. But I could see at least one difference. And now for land development on the mainland, they will usually leave it to developer to requisition land from current owners or and so on. But then for the 3 pilot sites, first, as I mentioned, the government has already completed the planning process, and second, we will only include common land for disposal, because in Hong Kong, if we have to requisition land, and then there is a system for rehousing and compensation, and I believe developers would want the government to take the lead in that respect. Now, you asked if there's been any expression of interest already. Well, definitely there are companies interested in this mode. We've been hearing such comment, but then they're just giving support in principle. We have to wait till we have the details for each pilot site, and we have to include all our requirements, and then we could invite expression of interest, because by then we will have more specific views from the market. First, I'll answer the question on astronauts. Well, we have the support and trust of the government. There are Hong Kongers involved in the Chang'e mission. The payload specialists selected have already gone to Beijing to participate in the relevant work. We hope that these specialists will work well in this mission. for the research center under the Hong Kong, I'll ask Mr. Ivan Lee to take the question. Thank you. Our involvement in the Chang'e 8 mission. Under the Hong Kong Research Cluster, we're going to set up a new research center. The center is to complete a mission entrusted in us by the China Manned Space Agency. That is, there is a need to have a multifunctional robot that will play a role in the Chang'e 8 mission. The center will be led by the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. Other universities will be involved too, the Hong Kong University, Chinese University, Polytechnic University, and City University. And then the center will work with mainland and overseas organizations that will include the Institute of Aerospace Technology in Shanghai. So that's the end of the press conference. Thank you.
好，各位午安。
Good afternoon. Welcome to the press conference today. On the stage, we have Mr. Michael Wong, Deputy Financial Secretary, Mr. Che Ching-wan, Secretary for Environment and Ecology, Mr. Lam Sai-hong, Secretary for Transport and Logistics, Ms. Mabel Chen, Permanent Secretary for Transport and Logistics, Ms. Janice Che, Permanent Secretary for Environment and Ecology, Environment, and Ms. Clara Wong, Deputy Director General of Civil Aviation. The Deputy Financial Secretary and the two secretaries will first give PowerPoint presentations, and then we will have questions from the journalists. Good afternoon, media friends. In the first half of the press conference, we will brief you on the measures on the development of low-altitude economy. Accelerating the development of new quality productive forces is an important task outlined in this year's government work report of a country. It specifically emphasizes the promotion of low-altitude economic development as one of the new growth engines. The low-altitude economy holds great potential. Low-altitude flying activities can be applied across different sectors, contributing to the development of industries such as logistics, innovation and technology, and tourism, thereby contributing to Hong Kong's economy. Moreover, compared to traditional fuel-propelled flying activities, low-altitude economy driven by drones is relatively low carbon and environmentally friendly. The China Low-Altitude Economy Development Research Report 2024, released by the CCID Consulting under the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, estimates that the scale of the low-altitude economy in the mainland China reached 505.95 billion yuan in 2023. It is projected that the scale will exceed 1 trillion yuan by 2026. The Morgan Stanley also published an urban air mobility research report that estimates that by 2050, eVTOL, electric vertical takeoff and landing technology, could be applied to both passengers and cargo, with the overall potential market reaching as high as $9 trillion. Let me first talk about the existing regulatory regime. Hong Kong has long designated low-altitude airspace for low-altitude flying activities, for example, helicopter and the operation of small unmanned aircraft. Currently, the helicopter operations are regulated under the Air Navigation Hong Kong Order 1995, while small unmanned aircraft weighing 25 kilograms or less are regulated under the Small Unmanned Aircraft Order, which came into effect in December 2022. With the technological advancements, various types of unmanned aircraft are emerging, including larger unmanned aircraft weighing over 25 kilograms and electric VTOL aircraft, either manned or unmanned. So there was a need for the government to amend legislation to provide a legal framework for these new types of aircrafts. Now, in terms of application, currently under the framework of the Small Unmanned Aircraft Order, the use of small unmanned aircraft by both government departments and private organizations is becoming increasingly widespread. Applications include developing 3D digital maps, search and rescue, aerial photography, drone shows, patrolling, and law enforcement, as well as monitoring, surveying, and maintenance. As of September 2024, the Civil Aviation Department, CAD, has issued permits to nearly 100 companies or organizations. The Chief Executive announced that the government will establish a working group on developing the low-altitude economy, chaired by me, with the Secretary for Transport and Logistics as the Deputy Chair. Members will include relevant policy bureaus and departments, such as the Transport and Logistics Bureau, Innovation, Technology and Industry Bureau, Culture, Sports and Tourism Bureau, and Environment and Ecology Bureau, Development Bureau, and the Civil Aviation Department. The working group will formulate development strategies, coordinate the efforts of different policy bureaus and departments. The working group will also approve pilot project applications, plan low-altitude infrastructure, and so on. The secretariat of the working group is at the Transport and Logistics Bureau. We hope that we will start our first meeting by the end of 2024. Let me also talk about our pilot projects. In early 2025, we will establish regulatory sandbox. We'll adopt a risk-based approach to prioritize different pilot projects. We will start from cargo delivery, such as food delivery, and light goods, such as letters, medicines delivery. We hope that the pilot routes and locations will cover areas with diverse terrains and development densities across Hong Kong. Potential areas include the Science Park, Cyberport, outlying islands, and the Northern Metropolis. The government will begin accepting applications from the industry by the end of this year, with pilot projects launching in early 2025. As I've mentioned earlier, we have to amend legislation to support the development of low-altitude flying activities. The Transport and Logistics Bureaus, as well as the Civil Aviation Department, will, under the existing small unmanned aircraft regulations, work with the sector how we can remove barriers to promote the use of small unmanned aircraft. We don't have to amend legislation to achieve this. We will also research on the development of regulations that oversee unmanned aircraft weighing over 50 kilograms. Hopefully, by early 2025, we'll be able to submit the legislative framework to the Legislative Council and have the bill passed within this year. I thank the Legislative Council members, including Ms. Elizabeth Quat and Mr. Andrew Lam, who supported our proposal. Although the schedule is rather tight, because the last meeting of this term of the Legislative Council will be in October next year. The bill is not complicated, so it's doable. Hopefully, we will have more use cases for unmanned aircraft in the future. I thank the Legislative Council members for their support. Different cities and the mainland are developing low-altitude flying activities and economy. We work with mainland authorities to establish cross-boundary low-altitude flight routes, entry and customs clearance procedures, as well as supporting infrastructures. Lastly, let me talk about low-altitude economy. For us to effectively develop the low-altitude economy, we have to gradually establish the necessary infrastructure systems. In the long run, the development of low-altitude activities will rely on an efficient, intelligent, and digitalized low-altitude infrastructure systems to manage the low-altitude activity network in real time and address the complex management and safety issues arising from low-altitude flyings. The working group on developing the low-altitude economy will conduct technical research and planning on building infrastructures for low-altitude flying activities. The research will commence in the first half of 2025. Meanwhile, when we promote new development projects such as the Northern Metropolis and the Hetao Cooperation Zone, we will consider land and infrastructure that is required for low-altitude flying activities. So much for my presentation. Now I'll pass the floor to the Secretary for Transport and Logistics.
Good afternoon, members of the public and friends of the media. Just now, the Deputy Financial Secretary briefed you on the policy on low-altitude economy. And now I would like to talk about the work of the Transport and Logistics Bureau in the policy address in relation to green development. First, International Shipping Center. We're going to reform the existing Hong Kong Maritime and Port Board into the Hong Kong Maritime and Port Development Board. It will be a high-level board for planning the long-term strategy. We will invite members from the transport sector. There will be dedicated teams for doing research, and then we will be giving the board more resources so they could step up training of the relevant personnel, and that will help to promote the sustainable development of the shipping maritime industry. And then we're going to promulgate the action plan on the development of green maritime fuel bunkering by the end of this year to develop Hong Kong into a green maritime fuel bunkering center. There will be incentives to encourage the use of green fuels. We will work with the Greater Bay Area ports, and we will build a green corridor for maritime transport. And then we will continue to provide cash incentives to vessels fulfilling international standards on reduced emission. And there will be bulk registration in the middle of the year for registered vessels. And then we will set up a digitalized port community system that is real-time. This is to facilitate the flow and sharing of data among stakeholders in the maritime, port, and logistics industries. We're going to further step up the promotion of existing tax concession measures for maritime services and enhance the preferential tax regime. This is to enlarge the local maritime cluster and promote the development of high-value added maritime services. Now, commodity trading accounts for half of the trading volume, So we're going to introduce tax concessions to attract related mainland overseas enterprises to set up their business in Hong Kong with a view to building a commodity trading ecosystem. We're going to release 4 logistics sites for the development of multi-story modern logistics facilities. And then in Hong Shui Kiu Ha Chun, we are going to we are doing a study on modern logistics, and we'll be announcing the results at the end of the year. On developing Hong Kong into an international aviation hub, the Hong Kong International Airport is connected to about 200 destinations around the world, and we have been attaining top global ranking for more than 10 years in terms of air cargo throughput. The Airport Authority Hong Kong will complete the 3-runway system by the end of this year. By 2035, the handling capacity of the airport will increase by 50%. We're going to support the airport in expanding its destination network. In particular, we would like to enhance cooperation with Belt and Road countries and enhance cooperation with the Zhuhai Airport. Together with Zhuhai, we're going to further expand our air cargo business. And then at the Hong Kong Port Island of the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge and Tung Chung New Town, we're going to build a new landmark that will promote some commercial, recreational, and tourism business. We're going to formulate a development outline soon. And then we are going to provide tourism support measures. For example, providing information at the airport in Arabic, and encourage taxi fleets to provide fleet service information in Arabic, say in mobile apps. So in Arabic, there could be explanation on the types of taxis and the fee structure, and so on. And that will actually bring more business opportunities to taxi fleets, so it's a win-win for all. We're going to press ahead with the sea-air intermodal cargo transshipment mode of Dongguan. We have the Hong Kong IA Dongguan Logistics Park, and that will help to reduce the cargo handling time and also the cost. And the phase 2 development will be completed next year, and we could handle 1 million tons of cargo. We want to enhance our competitiveness. We want to consolidate our position as an international aviation hub, shipping hub, and so on. So we'll continue to work with different policy bureaux to extend the air transshipment cargo exemption scheme to other intermodal transshipment modes. On the development of green aviation, the Airport Authority Hong Kong has started a consultative study on targets for sustainable aviation fuel usage, SAF usage, that is. And then they will set specific targets next year for flights departing from Hong Kong. On transport infrastructure, we adopt the infrastructure-led approach in releasing land development potential to create capacity for Hong Kong's development. We will continue to build our major transport infrastructure network. On railway services, the Tung Chung Extension Line, the Siu Ho Wan Station, and Northern Link, and so on. The projects will be completed as scheduled. And then for the Hong Shui Kiu Station and the Northern Link, we will start works this next year. They will be completed in 2023, 30, and 2034. And then we will also we have almost completed the second phase study of the Revan Hong Kong Shenzhen Western Rail Link Hong Shui Kiu Qianhai. As for the Northern Link spur line, we hope to start a detailed design next year. We are also taking forward various road projects. We are completing the remaining sections of Route 6. We hope to open Route 6 to traffic completely by 2026. And so the traveling time between Shankwaro and Yaomate could be shortened from 1 hour to 12 minutes. We also plan to compress the program for completing free, smart, and green mass transit systems. We will finalize the technical details and implementation approach for the East Kowloon and Kai Tak projects within 2025. We will adopt an innovative approach to take forward the Kai Tak project so it could be completed 3 years ahead of schedule. As for the Hong Shui Kiu Ha Chun project, we will invite expression of interest at the end of the year. In the new policy address, the Chief Executive has proposed innovative reforms. There's also continuity of policies and measures. So we'll continue to work hard to take forward the various measures and policies. Thank you. Next, the Secretary for Environment and Ecology.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The work of the Environment and Ecology Bureau covered 2 areas that are environmental protection and food safety and environmental hygiene. The overall direction is to build a beautiful Hong Kong, accelerate green transformation and low-carbon development to promote harmony between people and the nature. To build a beautiful China and Hong Kong, we have designated the Robin's Nest Country Park and the North Lantau Marine Park in March and November this year, making them the 25th country park and the 8th marine park in Hong Kong. We are also actively advancing the Shanpo Shu Wetland Conservation Park, which is 5 times the size of the Hong Kong Wetland Park. This is a new concept which integrates conservation, recreation, tourism, and fisheries agriculture development. We will progressively enhance our country park. The Paul Pin Chow Observation Deck in Sai Kung East Country Park and the revitalization of Lin Ma Han lead mine in Robin's Nest Country Park are expected to be completed by the end of 2024. We will integrate village culture to promote innovative and immersive ecotourism experiences, including organizing island hopping tours in Yan Chao Tong with themes of sound, color, taste at the start of next year, creating economic benefits and promoting urban-rural integration. We'll also update the Hong Kong Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan, formulating a comprehensive strategy up to 2030, contributing to both national and global diversity governance. In terms of promoting green and low-carbon transformation, we will assist companies in Hong Kong to conduct green technology projects. We are currently helping 2 local green technology companies setting up their production lines locally using recycled materials. These lines will produce high-value core materials for non-electric cooling products and high-value acoustic metamaterials, promoting the development of green industries in Hong Kong. We'll continue to support companies in developing green technology projects here, such as solar-powered hydrogen production facilities, to establish Hong Kong as a green technology demonstration hub and assist our country in exporting green technology and product. Currently, around 20 short-term tenancy sites in Hong Kong are reserved for recycling industries. We will introduce measures to remove barriers, optimize the short-term tenancy arrangements, strengthen support for green industries, and maximize land resources and potential. The government will also inject $100 million into a new round of cleaner production partnership program, supporting green development in Guangdong Hong Kong enterprises and positioning Hong Kong as a demonstration hub for green technology research and consultancy services to seize business opportunities. Now on to promotion of new energy development. We will collaborate with the Transport and Logistics Bureau to develop a sustainable green marine fuel supply chain, positioning Hong Kong as a key green energy bunkering center. In promoting green hydrogen and low-carbon hydrogen, the government is preparing amendments to the Gas Safety Ordinance with plans to submit these to the Legislative Council by 2025. Also, to facilitate the long-term development of green or low-carbon hydrogen applications in Hong Kong, we plan to establish a certification model for green and low-carbon hydrogen energy standards by 2027. Now, regarding promotion of green transport transformation, we have allocated approximately 750 million Hong Kong dollars from the New Energy Transport Fund. By the end of this year, we will announce a green transformation roadmap for bus and taxi operators as well as owners to provide them with financial support and subsidized trials of hydrogen fuel cell heavy vehicles. The government is also expanding charging facilities with a target to increase public and private chargers and charging spaces to around 200,000 by mid-2027. Currently, there are approximately 1,500 high-speed chargers in Hong Kong. We propose to invest $300 million in a new plan to subsidize private organizations to install 3,000 high-speed chargers, providing additional support for about 160,000 electric vehicles. Given the limited land resources in Hong Kong, will explore redeveloping existing petrol stations into high-speed charging stations, utilizing a single-site multiple-use approach to enhance land use and value. On promoting a green waste reduction and recycling culture, we'll continue to promote waste reduction and recycling efforts, rapidly expanding the community recycling network. By the first quarter of next year, the number of public recycling collection points will increase from about 500 to 800. We will establish self-service recycling stations or smart recycling facilities in public housing estates, optimize the service hours of green at community recycling facilities, and review the tendering arrangements and requirements to improve the operational cost efficiency and service levels. Since the launch of the Waste Reduction and Recycling Charter in June, about 850 applications have been received, covering 670,000 households. We will continue to encourage private housing estates to participate, providing more convenient recycling channels for residents. For food waste recycling, by the end of next year, the number of smart food waste recycling bins or collection facilities in public housing estates and large private housing estates will double from 800 to about 1,600. We will gradually install more smart food waste recycling bin in public housing estates with higher usage, aiming for the one estate, one bin goal by 2026. Additionally, we will subsidize private residential buildings to install smart food waste recycling bins through different schemes. We'll also enhance public education on waste reduction and recycling, with at least 400 promotional events in school next year. We'll also establish a legal framework for the producer responsibility scheme. We are already drafting the bill. In the future, we'll be able to apply the scheme to products like plastic beverage containers and drink cartons, expanding the scope of turning waste into resources. Apart from it, waste can also be converted into energy. The first waste-to-energy facility, iPark 1, will be in operation next year. We will also advance the construction of iPark 2, moving towards the goal of zero landfill. Now, in terms of sustainable development of agriculture and fisheries, next year we will issue licenses and provide deep-sea cages for marine fish farming in new fish farming zones in Wong Chuk Kok Hoi and Myers Bay to develop deep-sea aquaculture. Other initiatives to promote agriculture and fisheries development include preparing for the first phase of the second Agri-Park, promoting the modernized techno-agricultural park through public-private collaboration, implementing an urban farming strategy in new development areas, facilitating the construction of multi-story and environmental-friendly livestock farm, and promoting leisure, agriculture, and fisheries. We'll also explore the feasibility of providing dining facilities in Aberdeen Fish Wholesale Market to promote industry diversification and create a new image for Hong Kong tourism. We also attach a lot of importance to food safety, so we will review food safety standards under the food adulteration metallic contamination regulations. By the end of this year, we will publish the first report of Hong Kong's second total diet study, providing a scientific basis for food safety risk assessment. That's all for my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Now the floor is open to questions. Before you ask questions, please first of all identify your organization, and please limit yourself to no more than 2 questions. The lady at the back. I'm from Commercial Radio. Low-altitude economy. Can you give us more information? How long will it take for Hong Kong to develop a low-altitude economy before we could actually create benefits, and how much economic benefits will that bring to Hong Kong, and how much will be the cost? And how interested are the reference sectors in developing low-altitude economy? You mentioned using drones for food delivery. Are there any companies that have indicated interest in that? And in the next middle of next year, you're going to review the municipal solid waste charging scheme. Will you relaunch the scheme after the review? And when will you proceed with the second phase of elimination of plastic tableware? Now, your first question, we mentioned application scenarios, for example, food delivery. Well, there's been strong interest expressed, actually. And after the working group has been set up, we will meet with these operators. I mentioned regulatory sandboxes, or you could see them as pilot projects. We hope we could move quickly. We hope that by the end of this year, we will be able to invite the reference sectors and partners to submit applications. In the first half of next year, we will be able to start these projects. You mentioned figures, data. While we are at the early stage of our work, it is really not practical for us to say for sure how much economic benefits there will be. And I mentioned figures on the mainland. These are figures from big data, say from international organizations. We will have to wait till a later stage. That is after we have finished the pilot projects. Then we'll invite the government economists to assess the economic benefits of different projects. Next, invite Mr. Chair to answer your second question. Thank you, Deputy Financial Secretary. Now, we've listened to mainstream views, and we have suspended the municipal solid waste charging scheme. But then we remain committed to reducing waste. In our publicity campaign on the waste charging scheme, we got the feedback that the public would like us to shelve the charging scheme. But at the same time, there is strong support for waste reduction. So that's why we are seizing the opportunity in the interim to expand our waste recycling and reduction effort. We'll also consider how we should proceed with the waste charging scheme. So in future, we'll come up with a scheme that will be easy for the public to follow. Now, on stepping up publicity on waste recycling and reduction, well, in the past few months, we've seen much result. The recycling volume has gone up by more than 50% in just over the past 6 months. And for food waste, there's also increased by 50%. We've only recently expanded the scheme for residential, for domestic kitchen waste, but already the volume collected has gone up by some 40%. So we will continue to encourage the public to engage in waste recycling. And next, and then, as I said, we will consider ways to improve the charging scheme. And of course, we know public views are important. That's why we'll continue to assess the rate of participation of the community in waste recycling. We'll see if the public are prepared to change their ways of handling waste. So in the middle of next year, we're going to report the progress to the panel on environmental affairs. We will also report to the panel on our views on how we're going to take forward this waste charging scheme. Next question, please. The lady with long hair over there. Ming Pao. Yes, I'm from Ming Pao. Thank you. A question for the Transport and Logistics Bureau. The Northern Line Spur Line. Initially, you plan to start the planning this year, but it's going to be delayed to early next year. What difficulties have you encountered? If you're delaying the whole process, then does it mean the completion date will be delayed too? And then there's one station at Sentin is closely related to the Sentin Technopole development. So if there's a delay in this line project, does it mean that we won't achieve as much synergy with the mainland after the completion of the Sentin Technopole? Now, the smart and green mass transit system in Kai Tak, you say that the completion date could be advanced by 3 years. Why is that the case? What about, for East Kowloon system or Hong Shou Kyu system, we are talking about new green mass transit system. So is it possible also to advance the program by 3 years? How come you can only do that with the Kai Tak project? And last question. Now you're going to expand the airport city by 100%. So what will be the cost? The Asia World Expo Phase 2 and the fresh food market, when will you start works and when will the project be completed? Thank you. For the NOL spur line, in early next year, we're going to start with the initial design. As you know, there is a joint team with the mainland on the NOL spur line. We will look at the plan and the technical aspects. So it is actually a joint project. We hope that we can reach the boundary control point going through Sentin development area. For the Sentin new development area, we believe the spur line could be completed in time to and in tandem with the Sentin development. Kai Tak smart and green mass transit systems. As you know, there will be 3 such smart and green mass transit systems. We have actually engaged consultant engineers to do initial investigation and design. Before we engaged the consultant engineer, our team was working hard to identify room for speeding up the 3 projects. And smart and green mass transit systems are, of course, new to Hong Kong because, for the heavy rail system or the MTR system, there is little flexibility in terms of the route alignment because there are various technical requirements, and these are very different than the requirements for such a smart and green mass transit system. So with the hard work of our team, and now we have the consultant engineer in place, and much work has been done. For the Kai Tak system, we're able to finish the project 3 years ahead of schedule. That's because the alignment options for the Kai Tak system are already well established. And among the 3 systems, the Kai Tak system has a shorter route, just 4 kilometers or so. And also for the Kai Tak system alignment, it has little impact on the existing transport infrastructure. So in terms of statutory process and tendering exercise, they can be carried out in parallel. So that's why we believe that we could invite tender next year. And then for some of the statutory processes, for example, we are already carrying out environmental impact assessment. So EIA and detailed design could again be carried out in parallel. And for smart and green mass transit systems, they are the light rail systems. So there are ways to compress the construction program, and that's why we are rather confident that we'll complete the system by 2031, so 3 years ahead of the original schedule. For the other two systems, East Kowloon, well, there are diverse views on the alignment of the East Kowloon system, especially at the eastern end of the system. There are diverse views, so that's why there is a need to do more planning and consultation on the alignment. And then we could speed things up a bit. As for Hong Shui Kiu and Ha Chun, we're going to start the EOI, that is expression of interest, within this year. For Kai Tak on East Kowloon, we've already invited expression of interest. Actually, for the Kai Tak EOI, we will be getting responses by next week. So that's why we are able to move faster with the Kai Tak project. For the other two systems, of course, we will try our best to speed up these projects. And if there is room to compress the tendering exercise, we will certainly do so. Third question on the construction cost of expanding the airport city. Well, we are already doing various projects in relation to the airport city. Sky City, for instance, some of the buildings have been commissioned. As for the Sky Corridor, autonomous vehicles will be ready next year to link up the Hong Kong Port Island of the Hong Kong-Macau Bridge with the airport city, or Sky City. And in my opening remarks, I mentioned that in the first half of next year, the Airport Authority will be able to publish its initial concept and outline of the project. Some information will be provided then. The Airport Authority will, of course, go by prudent commercial principles in raising finances for the project. The government needs not shoulder any financial cost.
The lady in the last row, please. Good afternoon. From Hong Kong 01. I have two questions for Secretary Chair. First, on municipal solid waste charging scheme. This scheme has not been mentioned in the policy address. Are we going to afford it? Some designated bag suppliers said that they are still producing the designated bags upon suspension of the scheme. They still have a lot of raw materials in their warehouse, and they are still repaying loans from the banks. How are we going to solve the problem? How much public resources have been spent on this scheme? Second, on waste recycling, KPI of the last term of last policy address state that we have to properly address the waste recycling in residential developments. How many bills relating to waste reduction has been delayed? Thank you for your questions. As I've mentioned, in terms of promotion of waste recycling and reduction, we are determined Because of mainstream views, we have suspended the municipal solid waste charging scheme, but we're expanding the scope of waste reduction and recycling in the community. So within this year, we see changes in the community. The volume of waste recovery has been increased by 50%. The food waste recovery volume has also increased by 50%, but in terms of household waste, the volume of recovery has been increased 4 times. So we see results in our waste reduction and recycling efforts. When we promote waste reduction and recycling, we will see how effective our measures are, while we assess how much the community support waste reduction and recycling, and how willing they are to reduce their waste generation and recycle. In the middle of next year, we will brief the panel on environmental affairs of the Legislative Council. We supply designated bags to public housing estates to promote the municipal solid waste charging back then, because housing department give out rubbish and bags for their households, and as a result, we give public housing households 20 designated bags to educate them, and we give out bags that are sufficient for use of 20 months. Since June till today, well, our latest figures is as at September. In housing estates, the volume of waste recovery has been increased by 50%. In terms of food waste recovery, there's been a 70% rise. We encourage public housing estates residents to recycle, and we see that our measures are effective. Are we going to produce more designated bags in the future? Yes, because the size of the designated bags distributed in the housing estates vary, and they're rather small. Well, in the 6 months where we distributed the bags, we did that because we wanted to promote the scheme, and we will not be doing that in the future. Regarding issues relating to contracts with the designated bag suppliers, we will act in accordance with the terms of the agreements, and we cannot reveal any more details. Thank you. Next. An English question. The lady in the 3rd row.
Questions from the South China Morning Post. As the strategic feasibility study on the development of the wetland conservation park system is expected to be completed in the first half of this year, what are the outcome of the studies, and will the government proceed with the Nam Sang Wai and Ho Hok Wai parks? And second, for the International Shipping Center, there are comments suggesting Singapore is emerging as a main competitor to Hong Kong in becoming the leading international shipping center in Asia. What specific measures will we implement apart from reforming the board? Any KPI set by the government? And also, given the previous experience on how solar storm impact the drone show, what effects could it have on the low altitude economy, and what is the measures for the government to deal with that and also extreme weathers? Thank you.
If you don't mind, can you say your 3rd question again? As I didn't catch it.
Given the experience on how solar storm impact the drone show, what effects could it have on the low altitude economy, and what is the measures for the government to deal with that, and also other extreme weathers?
Right. Maybe I'll take the first question first, and then your other two questions I'll refer to Mr. Chair and also Mr. Lam. If you look at what's happened with regard to some of the drone shows that took place, when there was disruptions in terms of signal reception by the drones, there are 2 points I would like to make. First, it's not a safety issue. The drone shows, in terms of the level of requirements, in terms of the accuracy of the positioning of the individual zones, is really very high, because it has to be exact in order to show the pattern that is required, in order to perform the air movement that is required. And that was cancelled because of the, you've referred to solar storm disruption. For low level, for low altitude economy, if you're talking about transport of things, goods parcels, letters, medical supplies, the level of tolerance of for the routing of the movement of individual zones is much bigger, much bigger. For drone shows, we are talking about CMs. For actual movement of drones involved in LAE in other areas, it's much bigger. So we are really not, we don't think there's a large cause for concern arising from the occurrence of solar storms. So that's my answer to you. I'll then refer maybe to Mr. Lam first. Yeah.
Okay. Regarding the question of the International Shipping Center, in fact, in the action plan we wrote out last December on how to strengthen our ports, how to strengthen our maritime services. Basically, we are working on different fronts. First, we will implement measures to enhance the competitiveness of our ports. This include the introduction of the Greenfield Bunkering Center, which has been described in the policy address, and also we're now implementing the smart port, and we are implementing the port community system, and at the same time we are nurturing the talent development to support the shipping and ports and maritime services. And this is one area that we have laid down in the action plan. The other area that we talk about is how to strengthen the high-value maritime services. That includes quite a lot of activities from ship finance, ship management, and also maritime law, how maritime arbitration, and all these sort of maritime services. All the measures have been detailed in the action plan we rolled out last December. And in fact, apart from the measures that we put out in the action plan, there are also timeline stamped in the action plan for us to go through. So this is, I would say, this is quite a timing requirement put in the action plan for us to follow. So that is roughly where we are regarding how we can improve the ports and maritime services in Hong Kong.
I'll refer your question on wetland parks to Minister Chen.
Yeah. Well, as to the feasibility study on the wetland park system, the study is approaching our completion, and the final report is being prepared. It will be published very, very soon. And therefore, on the details and recommendations, you will know when it is published. Yeah.
好，下一個提問。
Next question.
後嗰行黑色衫。
The lady in black at the back. First, a question for Mr. Lam. Now, you say taxis should provide information in aerobic. What are the details? And would you extend that requirement to the MTR or other public transport operators? And then on public transport, there's a little mention of other modes of transport such as walking, cycling, and so on. And it seems that you are favoring mass transit systems. Now, in the 2022 policy address, let's mention that in the Kao Yi Chao Artificial Island, there will be a museum on traffic and transport. But then some members asked for such facilities in Hong Kong as well. So is the Bureau helping to promote such development? And then there are some green groups that say that Hong Kong needs to strengthen its capabilities to cope with extreme weather. There is a need for comprehensive climate assessment, and you need to set up a climate change department. Sorry, which organization do you represent? In media. Taxis first. You know, there are visitors, Asian and Arabic visitors. If they come to Hong Kong, we want them to feel welcome. So we encourage taxi fleets to include information on their fleets in Arabic on their website or mobile app. We're not asking individual taxi drivers to speak Arabic. Yesterday, the chief executive said we want to let visitors feel welcome in Hong Kong. And if taxi drivers want to learn Arabic, some simple Arabic, say greetings and so on, it's fine. Well, I don't speak a word of Arabic myself, but if taxi drivers want to learn some Arabic, well, that's actually a good thing. Now, we require encourage information in Arabic in the MTR system and in buses. Well, we will talk to the relevant organizations. And then you asked a question about mass transit system. Seems that we favor that. What about walking? Well, you might recall that we have been doing an ongoing traffic and transport comprehensive traffic and transport study. Next year, we will publish a report on the different modes of transport, and we're not just talking about mass transit system, walking or other so-called last mile connection. Well, they will be covered in the report. So next year, we're going to publish the report, the study report, on traffic and transport museum. Well, that's a good idea. We will consider the relevant factors. Thank you. You know, coping with extreme weather. You have, of course, witnessed various extreme weather incidents causing damage. The government takes these incidents very seriously. So the Chief Secretary for Administration actually leads all government departments, so they'll be mobilized to cope with extreme weather cases. As for whether there are any new plans or changes, definitely we will announce them. Last question, please. The lady at the far end. I'm from Wen Wei Po. It's a question on food safety. The Secretary mentioned that there will be review of the food adulteration, metallic contamination regulations. Now, you have, imposed restrictions on the import of aquatic products for over a year now. Are you going to relax that restriction? Now, your question about why we want to review metal content in food under the food adulteration, metallic contamination regulations. Well, in Hong Kong, we refer to the food safety standards in Codex. And so there are ongoing scientific studies, and when there are new findings, Codex will update the food safety standards. That's why from time to time we will review our own standards in Hong Kong to see whether there is need to make amendments in the light of new study findings of Codex. This is to make sure that we will always ensure food safety. So that's an ongoing process. On the discharge of nuclear wastewater in Japan, we now ban aquatic products from 10 prefectures in Japan. As for aquatic products from other prefectures in Japan, there is need to produce a safety certificate for these products to be imported in Hong Kong. Also, we will do testing to make sure the products are safe for consumption in Hong Kong. This is to protect public health. Now, recently, the Japanese government indicated that it's prepared to allow other countries to monitor the testing of wastewater. This is to boost confidence in their measures in ensuring safety in relation to the discharge of wastewater. So we'll see how things develop, and we'll see what the outcome is with such effort before we decide on the next step. For us, the most important thing is to protect public health and food safety. So we'll have to consider the actual circumstances before deciding on our next step. Thank you. That's the end of the press conference.